That's a weird joint. So I'm going to take you through a little tour of the Shaper Workstation for a not sponsored view of what's cool about it, if you can make one on your own, all that kind of stuff. There's one reason why it might be worth getting if you like to make things like weird tenons and grooves. Otherwise, you could probably skip it and just use some Shaper tape for most of what you do. It's $475, so if you like stuff like this, it might be worth getting. If you're like, what the heck is that? Why would I ever do that? You don't need to buy it. It's not necessary. This is not at all essential for the Shaper Origin. You can absolutely make something similar to this, or you could just use Shaper tape anywhere else. But what's really nice about this is it allows you to make especially things like tenons and joinery a little bit more precisely and perhaps faster than if you were to set up your own tape. I'm going to use it today to make some kind of like wacky looking joints that probably aren't the most structurally sound, but just to kind of show you what the capabilities are and how I would set this up. So for a walkthrough of this, I'm just going to walk through a couple things. Number one, it comes with a lot of this stuff. So for $475, you get your kind of lockdown clamps. It has this front piece and then this top piece. These can disconnect from one another. And then it has this top bar that's critical for it working. And then it also has these spoil boards. So you get these, and these are just out of MDF. You can make your own if you need to replace them because they're spoil boards so that if they break, you can replace them. So that all comes with it. It also comes with this board that has this spoil board on here. It's really easy to put on and off. Basically, the overview of this is you have your Shaper tape on top. The Origin sits on top of this little plate. It reads the Shaper tape, and so it always knows you're at your workstation, and then you can add different things to the scan and kind of go through that same process. I'm not going to walk through what you do on the Shaper Origin end, because if you're watching this, I assume you might have a Shaper or interested in that, and you kind of know what that's all about. But needless to say, it's, again, like most things with Shaper Origin, it's pretty easy to put together. For the joinery stuff I did today, I just used Shaper Studio, and it was a pretty fast process. So the first one we're gonna do here is using the bottom clasps here, these clamp downs that they have that are really easy. They just come in and out like that. They feed into these lower grooves that are throughout the board. And then there are two alignment pins that make the whole process a lot easier than if you're trying to kind of figure it out on your own. Because one of the most important things, if you've done maybe something like dovetail joinery on something like a Porter cable dovetail joinery situation, you want to make sure that your leg or your piece, whatever it is perfectly straight as it meets the top. And the nice thing about this is they have thought through that, and these two pins on the side are perfectly aligned so that you'll always have a really nice, perfect top. So obviously one of the benefits is you end up having perfectly aligned material so that then when I actually put the shaper on there and start cutting, I know that this is a perfect reference surface so that when I cut out my pieces, they are going to be aligned just right. So that's one benefit to this. You could probably create this lower piece by using something like a micro jig clamp and routering those same spaces out, which would be nice. And then you could figure out a system so that you ensure that it's parallel with the structure. But if you're not interested in doing all that DIY stuff to make sure it's perfect, then this is really beneficial for this whole reason of doing joinery like this that's unique, that's different. So let's go ahead and cut a few of these things, and then I'll also show you how this platform works and why you might use this instead of just this open space right here. So for this next part, we're gonna take off basically these little clamps, so we don't need these anymore. And we're gonna remove this temporarily because what we're gonna use is this bigger board, because that allows us to cut into flat things basically. So it's convenient because obviously there's a lot of times where you want to do that, and to get our top joints on the last piece we need to utilize this. So I'm gonna stand for this. Then we can put our spoil board back in. Because this is gonna have a piece on top of it and we can't clamp that down, the double-sided tape is important to affix your piece onto the tabletop here. And again, this just has MDF on it. You can buy these or you can just mill them yourselves. They're really easy because it's just a piece with some spots for the bolts to go through. So there you go. That is the Shaper Workstation. It's a $475 purchase. It has some adjustability, but it's fairly straightforward in that you're gonna do kind of two things. One, you're gonna cut your tenons for legs. You can do super unique things like you just saw me do. Or two, you can use this little surface here to cut out or bore out whatever designs you have on a fairly limited space. Now, some people have some cool plans for how to extend this space and use it differently, but you might end up just making a separate kind of shaper space with some shaper tape for that. I've used this a lot. I like it. I think it was well worth the money, especially for the precision of the tenons and what you can do in really unique, interesting ways that keep you feeling creative and thinking about different ways you can make tenons and joinery and things like that. I hope this helps. That's my quick little overview. This is the Shaper Workstation. I'm Dan at Faulkner Makes. See you later.